Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, March the 7th, and it has been a lovely sunny day, which you know I'm always appreciative of. I'm filming this a little bit later than I was anticipating because when I first came into this room to assess whether or not we could film in here today, it was not quite warm enough to be comfortable. And so I went, all you have to do is wait, wait a couple of hours, it'll be fine, sort of have lunch, blah, 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 do something fun, it'll all be good, and then you can record. But it also meant that I sat down on the sofa, which meant I accidentally had a bit of a nap. Anyway, so now I am feeling, perky, perky, warm, and ready to fill my Flosstube. This is a channel about cross-stitching and the stitching that I have done. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. If you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back and spending some time with me as well. As always, if you have any questions, comments, topics that you would like me to cover, please feel free to leave those in the comments below. Always happy to have that conversation with those of you who are watching. With that, I will get right into my stitching. If you are new to my channel, I have a 2021 stitching plan, and sort of the main focus of that plan is every month I am starting a new project. And by the topic for this week's video, the chart that I have chosen to start for the month of March is from My Big Toe Designs, and it is called The Work of Christmas. So this is what it looks like. So this came out in 2009, and I'm pretty sure that I have owned it, pretty much since it came out. And every time I've looked at it in my stash, I've said, oh, it's just lovely. You should really get on with stitching that. And of course, it's taken me, over 11 years to actually get it into the stitching plan. Part of that has to do with the fact that I never really had a plan. So anyway, I have a plan this year and I'm executing on the plan. So that's all good. So I'm going to read to you what the words on this say, because I'm sure it's a little bit challenging to read it from the screen. So it says, when the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoners, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, to make music in the heart. So it's lovely. It's lovely, lovely, lovely. So that's what it looks like. I am using, at the moment, all of the called for fibers, and we'll talk about that in a minute because it's at the moment I'm using all the called for. This is not a small chart. So the stitch count on this is 212 wide by 280 high. So this is a big one. This is not small. And so I am stitching, the called for fabric is 32 count Belfast linen in cream. I am stitching this on a 28 count Ice Blue Lugana. Now, I really would have liked to have stitched it on a 32 count Ice Blue Lugana, except that Ice Blue Lugana doesn't come in 32 count. So that's why it's coming out on the 28. And in terms of design size, it makes, it's a couple of inches it makes in the difference between 28 and 32. So I would have liked to have done it on 32. Do I know that I could get a 32 count Ice Blue linen? Yes, but I don't enjoy stitching on linen, and quite frankly, I've got a number of pieces in my current rotation that are done on linen for a variety of reasons, and I had made the decision that I was going to work on a fabric, my preferred fabric, just to give myself a break from all the linens. Anyway, so without further ado, so I started working on this on Monday, because that was the 1st of March. We are now on Sunday. I have not worked on it so far today. I haven't worked on any of my stuff today. So here's where I'm at. Yeah, so see, not small. This is not a small project. So I started in the middle, okay, for a couple of reasons. One, I'm the weird person who, I need my work to be centered on my fabric, really centered. So I largely tend to be a center start, but not always. Anyway, so this is page 4. Sorry, I just need to, there we go. That's going to help things. Okay, so this is page 4. So I've gotten all of the words done on page 4. I've gotten these 2 motifs done. I did all of the words first, so it was actually really gratifying when I had all of the words done and I finally got to use some other colors. So this is probably hard to tell in this lighting, but this is actually a very dark navy blue. So this is Weeks, the lettering is being done in Weeks Dye Works Peacoat. So yes, it was lovely getting, you know, these lovely, I have really weird lighting here. Let's see if I can't fix this a little bit. All right, don't know if that helps much, but it's a little bit better. Anyway, and then I started working on this big motif here. So it was really interesting when I was starting to stitch on that, where you're just like, even in the letters, I was like, oh, this is going to turn out to be large. And then, you know, probably about 3 days in, I wasn't sure if I was going to be happy with this being such a large piece. But I said, I spent a lot of time when I was looking at the fabric options for this. And yes, I could go up to 36 count. I think there's probably a very pale blue in 36 count that I could do it on, but again, that would force me into the land of linen. Not that there's anything wrong with linen, it's just not my preferred fabric. I do prefer an even weave, and so I went, just stick with it. It's starting to really grow on me of this in this size, and now that I'm actually paying attention to the size of it, I'm coming up with where it would belong in my house. But yes, still love it, still happy with it. Dears Weigart, who I'm quite sure does not watch my Flosstube channel, please bring back 32 count Ice Blue Lugana, except that by the time, even if you did, I would probably have this finished. Now, this is also a piece where I'm not expecting that I will have this chart complete in the month of March, barring unforeseen circumstances. But at the moment, I don't think that's going to happen for me. But it started. I felt I've made a lot of progress. So this chart is 4 pages. So this is page 4. So again, I have this very large Quaker motif here yet to do, not to mention a couple along the bottom and a fairly large one here in the center. So that's where my comment about I'm currently using the called for fibers comes from. Because, so the motif that I'm currently working on is this one over here. This is charted to be done in Weeks Dye Works Onyx, which is black. And with how dark the lettering is, I'm not sure that it will look distinctly different, and so I'm revisiting whether or not I actually want to do this in onyx. I'm also revisiting the colors of these 2 motifs that come down here. One of them I think is okay. One of them I may end up changing out, but anyway. So my goal is, so I will finish working on this motif. I'm going to skip all of these bottom motifs down here. Next week, I will continue working on the lettering on page 3. It's like, what page was that? Oh yeah, page 3. we'll see how fast that goes. In my head, I think there's less lettering on this side than on that side, but that could just be in my mind. So check back next week and see how well I did. But that is my new start and my technical focus piece for the month of March from My Big Toe Designs, called The Work of Christmas. So that's my new start for this month. And since we're talking about Christmas, we might as well move on and talk about the Neverending Nativity. So this week I did not get a ton of stitching done on my Neverending Nativity because I spent a lot of time on the My Big Toe one. It really does mean that I need to get my act together, and because I have some goals for March for the Neverending Nativity that I really do need to make some progress on. So again, I am at the moment, so this is the Nativity, which I call the Marbeck Nativity by Serendipity Designs. I am working on the bottom half of the center panel. So this is the chart that's called the Holy Family. I have been working on Mary. So what did I get accomplished this week? Well, as I said, not a ton because I didn't spend a lot of time. But I did some. So I'm working on the blues that are going around, that are filling in these last little bits down here. So again, this little chunk down here, I'm waiting until the very end as to whether or not I fill that in with the called for color if it needs to be changed. The blank spots down here in this little chunk, you'll love this. All of those, that's Krynic. Yeah. So there's some of the Krynic that's called for down here is also called for up here. So I've decided I need to do a little bit more, quite a bit more up here, and then I will fill in the Krynic. And back stitching. So I think I had been hoping that I would have finished Mary this week so that I could move on to the upper part of this and get going on that, which that didn't pan out for multiple reasons. So my goal for this week is really I need to finish Mary this week, period. So somehow, however I'm juggling my stitching schedule, I need to make sure that Mary Mary got very little time this last week. So Mary needs to be brought forward. She needs to be on the A team and get some stitching put into her this week. So that is where I'm at on the Neverending Nativity. Which brings me to my Lent piece. So for Lent, I am stitching on, so this is Jerusalem by Thea Gouverneur. It's a kit. So I'm using the kit as is. So the linen that came with the kit, the floss that came with the kit, everything is coming from the kit. And I am working on this every day for a minimum of 30 minutes and trying to spend no more than an hour on it. And I've done, in terms of timing, I've done not bad this week in keeping to that. What I've discovered is the trick is pick a television show that's like an hour-long television show, because when you do it without commercials, it turns out to somewhere between 40 and 45 minutes. And that means, you're right within your time zone. So if you need, if you get to the end of the show and you still want to finish a few things, I still have a little bit of a time. But if I'm, wrapping it up close to when the show is ending, that's not the time to start something else, because I'm going to run out of time. So that's how I'm also helping keep my time going on that. I know I could use a timer and all that kind of stuff, but it's a little bit weirder when I'm listening to an audio book or something like that, a podcast. Anyway, whatever. So my whole trick is find something that I'm listening to while I'm stitching that is about 45 minutes, and then it tends to work out the right way. So that's what that looks like. Again, this is another one of my pieces where I've done a center start, which puts me in this range. So again, not bad progress. I'm happy with my progress on this week. This is my yet another gigantic piece. So I know last week I had talked about the fact that I was planning on focusing up here in the top because it had some bigger blocks of color, which is what I was doing. The interesting thing for me that I decided after I started that was that it would take me away because from making progress on this bottom part of this page here, because this is a little more confetti where it's drawn out and not in blocks. So what I decided a couple of days in was, yes, I would spend a day up here doing a lovely, blocks of color that were really nice. But the next day I would do something down here, which is a little more finicky and you have to count and, 12 other things. And so that I think is actually working out for me. So one day up here, one day down here. And so I get to see progress on both. Again, today I have not spent any time today stitching. So today is a down part. So I'm going to be doing some stuff down here. So one of the last things I do every day when I finish working on this is I figure out what the goal is for the following day, particularly with the color that I'm going to end up choosing. And that just makes the following day when I sit down to stitch on this a little bit easier because I've already chosen what I'm planning, the color that I'm planning on stitching. And I have to tell you, I know I said this when I first started working on this, the symbols in this chart are awful. I hate them because they're so similar. So it's really like I literally am taking the chart and the floss cards and having to literally match up the symbol to make sure I've got it correct because there are just so many that are very similar. So not enjoying that, not enjoying how careful I have to be when picking the floss because of how similar they are. And it also means that you have to be very careful as you're going through the pattern because again, with very similar symbols, and sometimes they're quite close to each other on the chart. So yeah, it's one of those. Anyway, so this is the Church of All Nations that I'm working on. So the Thursday of this week marks halfway through Lent. So I do think I'm making, for, theoretically limiting myself to, between 30 and 60 minutes a day, it's making progress. I'm happy with that progress. If I only stitch this during Lents, it will probably take me about 20 years to get through this. So as I'm working on my 2022 stitching plan, I'm figuring out how to put this into my rotation for 2022. We'll talk about that a bit more when we come to plans. So that is what I have been stitching on this week. Okay, so let's do Stitch from Stash updates. So I did my Stitch from Stash reporting for the month of February. Again, if you're new to my channel, in 2021, I'm doing Stitch from Stash. There's a group on Facebook that I'm a part of. It's linked in the notes below. Now, again, this is for your own personal benefit. I do have a fairly large stash, which is why I said to myself, you really need to get a grip here and you need to start stitching your stash. Hence, this 11-year-old pattern that I've finally broken down and started working on this year, amongst many others that I've started or, are in the plans for 2021. So here is my Stitch from Stash budget. Well, here's my report for February. So I had a carry forward balance from January of $44.50. My monthly budget is $25. February was, I got a little spendy in there. So that was interesting. So I bought 4 or 5 charts. So I spent $33.86 on charts, which quite frankly, that's more than my $25 budget anyway. Don't forget the shopping. I'm happy with what I shopped for. I finished the camel from the Marbeck Nativity in the month of February. which gave me an incremental $20.40 for spending. I finished parts 1 through 4 from Frida's Fancy Stitching the Banquet, which gave me another $14.76. So I'm ending February in the black with a carry forward amount of $70.80. So that's good. March is going to be a whole other kettle of fish. We'll see how we do on that one. Hence, I really need to do some really good work on my Marbek, the Neverending Nativity, because I need to get something finished on that so I can claim a credit, because there's no way I'm finishing my Lent project. There's no way, at this point, I don't think I'm going to be in a position to finish the My Big Toe piece. So, and I have been doing some spending. Now I actually haven't had to pay for anything yet, which is why I don't have to report on yet, because it hasn't come. I haven't had to pay for it yet. So but that is coming. It will be coming. So that is my February stitch from Stash. I will say I did get a note from Etsy that one of the charts that I have in my sort of wish list in Etsy was on sale, and I had a moment where I'm like, ooh, sale, we should go do this. And I dutifully went on and I looked at it and I looked at the other things, because, you know, no chart should travel alone, even if it's a PDF and all these kinds of things. And then I was like, oh my goodness, think about your spending and your budget and your stitch from Stash. And so then I went and looked in I've already bought charts from this designer. I have 3 charts from this designer. Would you like to know exactly how many of those charts that I have stitched up? 0, none, not one. And so then I very dutifully looked at the ones that I've already bought versus the ones that I was currently looking at in the sale, and went, I still like the ones that I have in my stash more than the other ones. So I did very well. So I bought no charts, was very sorely tempted, looked at it, blah, 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 but was very successful, and I did not buy the charts. It's like until you actually get cracking on some of the charts from this designer that you already have, you do not need to buy another one. So that was very beneficial. I did very well. I'm very proud of myself for having that big long conversation with myself. Yeah, that was not a 5-minute conversation. That was a much longer conversation, but it worked out for me in the end, so that was good. So from a Stashquisitions perspective, so I was very good this week. I did not buy those charts, even though they were on sale. Needlework Expo, which is a really, really big risk for me. So there was a chart from Needlework Expo that I was like, you need to get this. It wasn't, so I'd already done one order with my local needlework shop for Needlework Expo, but it's likely that I was going to put in a second order. And so I was looking at this chart where I was like, I had every intentions. It was going into the cart. I was going to be adding it to my order, etc., etc. And then for whatever reason, I actually read the description and went, wait a minute. So it's not, for some reason in my head, I didn't think it was going to be huge. And I don't know why I thought that. But one of the dimensions is like, I'm going to say it's like 340. The model was stitched on 40 count linen. And even then it was a little over like one of the dimensions is over 17 inches on 40 count. So that's where I went and pause, because, you know, Jerusalem, huge piece. The My Big Toe, I don't think I'm going to finish it in March. It's a large piece. So this is the largest dimension on the My Big Toe design is 280. It is not 340. So I did a great big pause. And again, so this is one of the things that I'm trying to work on myself, was where I said, this is not a limited edition release. It will be available later, but time to sit back and reflect on how many large charts I have in my stash, which is a lot, and sort of go, are you really going to stitch this? And the answer is, I don't know that I am, because at that size, yes, I can see why they stitch it on 40 count. Now, you don't have to do it on 40 count. You could do it over 20 count, 20 count Ada, 20 count Lugana, like fine. Or as a friend of mine likes to say, well, you could just stitch it over 1 on 25 or 28 count, except that I don't enjoy stitching over 1. Anyway, 20 counts fine, over 1, 25 I don't, anyway, I have issues with that. So I'm taking a pause on that. So I have successfully not ordered that. I have not added it to my order while I review where I really am. It's not a limited edition release. It will be available later, that I can come back and order it at a later date. So talked myself out of that one. So that was good too. So success this week in Stitch from Stash. I have bought nothing this week, so that was good. I will say, so the My Big Toe, I ended up ordering a scroll rod to fit that. Believe it or not, I bought it off of Amazon, and I got to use one of my Christmas gift cards for it. So I did shop for that. It did come in time for me to put it into use. It does not count against my Stitch from Stash budget, because I used a gift card that was a gift. So I'm ready to go. Ordered it, working with it, but it doesn't count towards my stash. So I'm, again, it's one of these things. I honestly was all prepared to start the month saying I'm going to do it on a Q-snap, and quite frankly, the first couple of days, I think I did use it on a Q-snap, which when the scroll rod arrived, I was like, oh, thank heavens it has arrived, because I'm not enjoying work. I think I've turned it into a don't work on the Q-snaps, which is weird for me. I think it's because I've gotten out of practice, because I've been stitching at home as opposed to stitching elsewhere. Generally when I've been stitching, either with groups of friends or at a shop if they were having a stitch-in night, that's where I'm using my Q-snap. I think I've just gotten out of practice. So anyway, so yes, technically added something, added some scroll rods. Doesn't count towards Stitch from Stash because I used my gift card. So thank you, Auntie Sharon, for your gift card at Christmas. I really appreciated it, because I ended up surprisingly using it for stitching supplies. Bought off of Amazon. I know, weird. Okay, so that is my Stitch from Stash. And so here we are at the topic. Let's talk My Big Toe Designs. So I'm going to start right off the get-go and say My Big Toe Designs has free charts. So again, every time I am, when I do the new month, new start, I do go in and check to see if there are free charts that are available for download. I think it's always a great idea that if it's a new designer to you, and again, given the times we're living in, I know that there are a lot of people who are having to be very cost conscious about how they're spending their money for a variety of reasons. And I'm all, hey, I'm trying to stick to a budget for my stitching, which is really a first for me. And, anywho. So My Big Toe does have free charts on their website. I want to say there's like 6 or 7 of them. So here's, here's an example of, so really I just cobbled these all together, of the types of free charts that they have. I think this one about kids is really quite funny. True, accurate, but funny. And so that's a sampling of the free charts that are available from My Big Toe. I will put a link in the notes below directly to where these free charts are. If you're coming at it from your own, it's at mybigtoedesigns.com. On the top of their webpage, there's top right, there's a section called freebies. Just click on that and it'll take you right in here. So that's an example of the free charts that they have currently available. I do have other, so here are some of the My Big Toe charts that I have in my stash. You're going to get to see why it's like Stitch from Stash really needs to, I feel Stitch from Stash needs to be a lifetime thing for me. Anyway, and I just realized I didn't take any of these out of the plastic, and the glare is just not going to be good. Let's see how well I do. So this is called Cheaper Than Therapy. Stitching is cheaper than therapy, but not if you do it right. Yeah, so this one's a little one, so 95 by 64. It does come, the chart does come with this scissor charm to put in here. And again, this is one where you could easily choose colors of your choosing. You do not have to follow the colors that came on this. And unfortunately several of my friends are all part of the but not if you do it right. Okay, I think I'm not going to take these out because it's just going to slow things down. So we'll see how we do. This is called The Names of God. So it has a whole bunch of the names of God. So My Big Toe does have a number of faith-based charts as well as non-faith-based charts, which you'll see in a bit. I have some of each. In my head, I have a plan for how this would stitch up. As you can tell, I have not, started any of this. This is a large one again. Stitch count 240 by 392, so not subtle. Anyway, let's get the work of Christmas done first. So this is Time to Stitch. This is one of her newer ones. I want to say, yeah, it came out in 2020. Which, again, I can't read the words. God grant me the ability to stitch the stash I have, to have the stash I want, and the time to stitch it all. I know, time travel. Wouldn't that be great? Anyway, oh yeah, I like this one too. This is called Retirement Planning. This is not hoarding. It's called Retirement Planning. And I do subscribe to this a little bit. There are a number of things that, I have to admit that when I retire, I'm expecting that I will have more stitching time, more time to devote to my stitching, and that's when my stitching pace is going to pick up. Check back. So here's an example. So they have a series called Building Blocks. Again, this is a faith-based chart. This is the Grace chart. There's a number of them. I want to say like 12, 15 of these. They are all a center word and then verses of scripture around it that include this word. So this is Grace. I also have Joy. And quite a few of the other ones as well. But yeah, there's a whole series of them called Building Blocks. So this one I've shown before. So this is Share Laughter. She also has a series of charts that are based on hymns. So this is one that I have in my stash from Great Is Thy Faithfulness. But again, she's got a number of them. If you have a favorite hymn, you can just pop over onto her site and see if she's got one that is your favorite hymn. This is called My Stitching and Me. I'm just, again, because I can't read it in the screen backwards, I'm not that I'm not that gifted. It says, take time to stitch the day away, no matter what others have to say. Needle and thread a comfort be, my fabric, scissors, hoop, and me. Chores and laundry all will wait, my kitchen throne I abdicate. Some comfy socks, a cup of tea, today is about my stitching and me. So, and again, so her charts, you know, they tell you what the model has been stitched in, but again, this is very simple. If these are not your colors, choose your primary color, and then, you know, given this floral border, choose the flowers of your choice, choose a green of your choice. You're away to the races. Use a variegated in this, so it's multicolored, all sorts of options. Don't ever feel that you're limited to what the model has been stitched with, because I don't. And then this is another one from her called To Stitch or Not to Stitch. To stitch or not to stitch, is there a question? And again, so this is a smaller one, so this is 117 by 99. She's got things about pets, and, you know, she's got charts all over the wazoo about family and, you know, all sorts of things. So I will put the link to her website down below. You cannot order directly from her website, so you would need to go to your local needlework shop or an online needlework shop to order these charts. But as far as I know, none of her charts are out of print. Again, not to my knowledge. And she has quite a range of selection. She also does things like pins and scissor fobs. So she's got accessories as well. I don't necessarily have those because, to a certain extent, I don't necessarily need all of the gadgets that go along with all of the accessories that some people do. But she does have a wide range of those. So again, those are all on her website. She's got a whole accessories section, so you can go through all of those. And again, you can ask your local needlework shop or go to an online shop. Even if you've got a favorite one that you go to, even if it's not on their webpage or they're not currently carrying it, you can always check with the store owner to see if they can order it in for you. A lot of them have the ability where they can order it in, no problem. They just, you know, for whatever reason, it hasn't been a big seller for them, so they may not be carrying it. But that's check with your. They may say no, and if not, there is, as usual, there's a spot on the My Big Toe Designs webpage where they can say. She's got a listing of shops that are on her auto ship that get, like, every time she releases something new, they get it. So she also has a list on there. So if your local needlework shop can't get them for whatever reason, there are resources on the website to direct you towards a shop that where you should be able to order it. And again, the link directly to the My Big Toe Designs website will be in the notes below. I will say My Big Toe Designs has new releases for Needlework Expo. I will say that I like a couple of them, but I've been very successful, again, as I went through my previous one where I've said they are not a limited edition release. They will be available later, and I've kind of said to myself, you know, I've got the Work of Christmas, which I started for March. I also have Choose Joy, which I started for Mania last year, which is not finished, even though it's a small. I only worked on it for a couple of days. So I've kind of said, until I finish the Work of Christmas and I finish the Choose Joy from Mania of last year, I'm not buying another My Big Toe chart. So I've got my eye on them. I've put them into a wish list. Again, I have, how many My Big Toe charts have I just shown you? And again, it's not that I I think I should get through, I think I should get through some of my existing stash of my big toe before I add to it, although there are two that I quite like. And then I'm having a moment saying, okay, so the last part, there they are. Because, so this, so I was actually going to show these last week when I was going, this is sort of Stashquisitions, but I didn't put in the Stashquisitions spot because this is part of that order that I made orders that I made with my LNS that for a variety of all valid reasons, you know, came in after the end of 2020, but I am doling them out over several videos. And again, when I was putting the video, getting ready for the video last week, I was like, oh, and here, you know, because I was going to do charts, and then I looked in them and said, but two of them are my big toe charts. And I knew that my March was going to be my big toe designs, so I figured I should probably not show them until we got until March. So again, this came in that last batch, but I have added to my stash. So this is Cherish Friends. So again, she's got a whole series of these ones that are all sort of round ones. What was the other one I showed you? Embrace Moments, I think, was the one that I showed you before this. Here's Cherish Friends, which came in that last order, along with, oh, here's Embrace Moments. See, now I'm going, what was the one that I just showed you? Thought I had one in here. But again, she's got a whole series that are all similar round designs. The concept is the same. Oh, there we go. Share laughter. There we go. So I have 4 of these. Share laughter, embrace moments, and cherish friends. And again, I got these, so I ordered these because I have a finishing idea. And if for those of you who've been watching me for a long time who go, I am terrible about showing fully finished objects because I'm not good about the fully finishing. I have, Helen D has a fabulous YouTube video, and I've stolen one of her finishing ideas, and I'm hoping, you know, once I start working on these, that I can execute her finishing idea. I bought some of the stuff to do it. I have not stitched the thing that goes on it, but I got it while it was on sale at Michael's, and hopefully one of these will show up in my 2022 plans. None of those are in my 2021 plans, because even for this month, let's pretend I'm uber successful, and for whatever reason, I get the work of Christmas complete in the month of March, and I have, with time to spare, I still have Choose Joy, which I have already started. So even if the work of Christmas actually gets finished this month, Choose Joy is up next. And again, I will be very happy to have that complete. So it's not like it would be a bad thing. But that's my fallback plan if for some reason I'm uberly good at completing this. Again, I was surprised at how much progress I got. I was very happy with my progress. Again, it came at the expense of Mary. I didn't spend nearly as much time on the Neverending Nativity as I should have. So I need to work on that this week to fix that. But yeah, I was very happy with my progress this week. There's my new start for the month of March. My big toe, the work of Christmas. Check back next week and see how I do. So yeah, so my plans for this week, no big surprise, Lent every day. Mary needs to get finished this week. This week, Mary needs to get finished, and I need to work on the work of Christmas. So it's not bad. I've got a plan. Executing on the plan. We'll see how we do. Again, so this is the weekend of Needlework Expo. check in with your local needlework shop. There's a ton of new releases. I'm forever grateful for every designer who has put chickens or mermaids. I'm thrilled that the special collaboration theme thing was a cow. Not that there's anything wrong with it, and I'm grateful for everyone who participated, but usually cows don't necessarily appeal to me. So it's really helpful to me personally, because it just means it's a chart that I don't necessarily want to add to my collection. So lots to see. I really enjoy the fact that a number of people have pointed out on their Flosstube, so I'm going to do that as well. Unlike previous years when it was Nashville Needlework, which is the same weekend, which was canceled because people weren't necessarily good with coming in person. What happened at Nashville is that your store owners could go to the Nashville Needlework Show, they could do all their shopping, they could cart it home from the show. And so, you know, lots of stores, including my local needlework shop, always had a big weekend. Usually it was the weekend after Nashville, so they would come back and get organized, try to sort out, you know, pre-orders and all that kind of stuff. But they'd always have this, you know, big open house weekend, and everybody would come in and see all the things. And sometimes the things that you didn't necessarily think appealed to you when you went and saw them in person changed your mind. So I always loved going to my LNS for their Nashville Needlework weekend. It was great. But, you know, hey, Nashville's canceled. They're doing it online. And the thing with the online version is that when they place their orders, they are placing the orders directly with the designers, and there's a lot of them. And unlike Nashville, where they could shop and then just cart it all home together, because, you know, the designers would bring all the stuff to Nashville. You're having to order from all of these designers individually, which means, one, we'll have the weekend. Two, now the designers have to sort of get all the orders pulled together for a shop, ship them out. So shipping puts them into the shipping system, which little hit and miss. Usually everything gets there eventually, but it's a question of timing. And now they're having to wait for all of these various shipments from a large number of suppliers to get you your stuff. So, you know, if you order 5 different charts from 5 different designers, not that that's a bad thing, that sounds great. It just means for the shop that you're ordering it from, they have to wait for 5 distinct shipments to get shipped to them, have them received before they can fulfill your order. So it will take a lot more time. In my head, it will take a lot more time to receive your orders because of the multiple layers of shipping that are involved this time. But, you know, yes, I've placed an order. Yes, actually on mine, my order was actually designs from one designer in particular, which is a local designer here. So I'm actually expecting that one is not going to take forever to come. So I do think it's going to arrive in May. It's not May. I think it's going to arrive in March. And it'll be fine because I'm planning on using my gift certificate. So again, that's helpful. Stitch Mustache, yay! Very grateful for gift certificates that help me out on this. But again, I've talked myself out of at least 3 charts, probably more like 5 for the moment. And again, with things saying until you stitch a few more things from your existing stash, maybe you don't necessarily need the new ones. But that's for me. Hey, everybody has their own budget, has their own desires, and that's great. And I love seeing all the new stuff. I'm always excited when there's new stuff being released, whether or not all of it appeals to me. Like I say, thrilled for the cow ones. If you're into the cow ones, go have a look at them because there's quite a few of them. But yeah, so that's Needlework Expo. I felt like I had one more thing to say. Needlework Expo, blah, 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 designers. that's it for right now. It'll probably come to me like 35 seconds after I finish this. But with that, I hope you have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and find some time to do some stitching. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.